There we
Welcome
go.
to the Marketing Trench. Today, we are excited to have Jason Perkins of Bonzo joining us, and we're going to be talking about the mastering the cadence of conversion. If you have been listening the last couple of weeks, we've actually referenced Bonzo at least once, maybe twice. I seem to recall it's come up for some reason on a couple of different episodes, but we've been talking a lot about the whole process of creating follow-up funnels, creating conversation, making sure that you understand that marketing isn't just about trying to come up with this perfect campaign that you deliver one time and generates all this business, but it's very relationship driven. It's very follow-up driven. It's something that you need to you need to think about it in terms of, we talked about deep funnels last week with Bob from
Mhm.
Feed Stories. You need to think about it in terms of a process, and it seems to us that Bonzo has done a really fantastic job of thinking about that conversion process, of thinking about when to send a message, what kind of message to send, the timing. We're going to be talking about all of that. And Scott is actually the first person to introduce me to Bonzo. And I'm going to hand the microphone over to him. Scott, can you just tell me what caught your eye first about this program before we let Jason kind of introduce himself?
Well, I've been using these types of technologies for probably close to 10 years now. They've existed, they've been out there, and really what it is it's an automation assisted contact and conversion of consumer direct leads. So if you do any sort of marketing, or if you have a website that you have web forms on there, uh, we like to listen. The most common phrase spoken in any marketing is leads suck. And that couldn't be further from the truth. What sucks is your follow up. And that's almost always the case. And it's not that you suck, it's that you haven't thought about the consumer experience, and you also haven't considered that consumers are on your website and they're clicking on ads when they're laying in bed at night on their iPad. um, you never know when it's going to happen. There's an old myth that first to contact, or first to lead is like an important thing, when really it's first to acknowledge the fact that you receive the consumer's information. And that's where assisted, technology assisted automation comes in. What I love about Bonzo, um, primarily, because again, I've used a lot of these, and Ricardo and I have written some amazing scripts that have converted really, really well. And we've had a lot of luck with these things. But for me, what Bonzo seems to represent is sort of a lot of those things were MySpace, and Bonzo kind of came along from a different place and said there's a little bit different way to make this a little bit more personal. And not only is sort of the follow up and the scripting, I mean, it's probably 80-90% of some of the same cadences that are out there and some of the same conversation. But what I really like, and this is why I like to introduce people on this podcast, is the people behind the companies and the why they do what they do. And I consider Jason as one of these young entrepreneurs, well, younger than me, that are doing these things for the right reasons, and really trying to create a better experience for not only the people that are subscribing to his service, but the consumer that we're communicating with. So those are really the boxes that checked, that I've been able to check with my conversations. And so yeah, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, and I definitely want to talk about the best practices and what he's built, and really why he built it. I mean, his story of why he built all of this is really good too. So.
All
Yep,
right. Wow.
that's why we got you on here.
Yeah,
Thank
let's dig in. Jason, pleasure to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started up with Bonzo?
Yeah, first off, thank you guys so much for having me. Your podcast is great, and what you guys do for the mortgage industry is providing so much value and insight and conversation around best practices is invaluable to us. So thank you for everything that you guys do. My background, Dustin, is in mortgage. So I was a loan officer. I got in the industry in 2014. I got into kind of building out some of the tech stacks within our mortgage company, took a more of an executive level position later on, and really helped build the model around CRM and automation around the current tech stacks that we were using internally at our mortgage company. I saw a lot of the gaps, right?
Mhm.
And one thing I noticed is that, and this is where we all skip, like we kind of missed the mark on, I feel like we all do, is that we look for automation to fill the outreach, to fill the void, to fill the conversation. And I even though we have a automation conversation software, I don't believe that's the answer. And I say that because when we have conversations with our friends, for instance, we text back and forth. We know it's meaningful. We know it's relevant. We use emojis. We use GIFs. We use video. Our purpose is to drive a connection. And what I think the fundamentals of automation have been lost in translation in that. And what I mean by that is that a lot of us that are using automation in their outreach is so bland, is so blanketed, there's no connection tied around it. There's no relevancy tied around it. There's no way for me as the consumer to connect with what you're sending me. For instance, we all know the CRM that sends out the email once a month of how to spruce up your garden in the front, or how to get the leaves out of the gutter. Guess what? Nobody cares about that. It's not providing me any value as a consumer, and it's not driving a conversation. And so that's fundamentally, I'll start there, of kind of like why I started to think about the why around building out Bonzo, a system that's going to drive an actual conversation. I want to have a conversation with somebody because we believe at Bonzo, the more conversations you have, the more relationships you build. And ultimately, as a byproduct, the more relationships you have, the more sales you're going to have. So think about it in a way of using automation as a sense of building meaningful relationships, but using your voice to do it. Can I give me a pause there? I think I just kind of flooded a lot of information there.
Well, so yeah, that's really, Scott, I have some questions, but do you want to dive in real quick?
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, so you were doing tech stack stuff at your mortgage company, and I've done some of this here at the escrow company too, and I know the process, right? I mean, you dig in and you think this is pretty straightforward. We just need to do X, Y, Z. We're going to build our own solution. And then you come to find out that there's all these moving parts and things that need to talk to each other, and probably they don't play nicely. And so it sounds like you went on a bit of that journey. And when you were launching Bonzo, like, why was that the thing that jumped out to you the most?
Why was
the problem you're solving with Bonzo? Why was that the thing that really, when you were kind of surveying the landscape of things you could potentially do, right? And I assume that there are probably a lot of problems you identified that could be solved while you were working on the tech side and admin side of your mortgage operation. So why was the problem you're solving with Bonzo the one that really grabbed your attention?
Yeah, because I was working with, that was a great question. When I was working with our loan officers, they're saying they're looking at their database, for instance, right? And they're saying, I have all these emails. They're getting dripped on these emails, but no one's getting a response. These people are not responding back to me. I said, why don't you try to pick up the phone, actually call them. See what happens when you actually send them a text message in your voice, or pick it up and actually call them and say, hey, it looks like you might be in a good position to refinance. Give me a call back when you have a moment. And then look at your response rate. From that, a personalized approach compared to a blanketed, hey, here's rates are at this. Have you ever thought about refinancing? Consumers are smart. They know when they're getting sent a template-based email that's coming from a corporate CRM. And typically they file that under internally in their mind, they file it under junk. That's like, they know because it's not someone's actually thinking about them, right? But when we turn our outreach into, right, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about all the time, the best form of marketing is caring. The best form of our outreach is caring. So if we can turn our outreach, right, in a sense or form of caring, we're going to win that relationship. And so that's where I started thinking about differently. How can we scale our voice to our leads, to our customers, right? And a place where it's building authenticity. And I know it's a buzzword, but in a way that it's pushing the voice, the caring of the loan officer back into a one-to-one conversation. And that was the first kind of why behind it. Like, what if I'm going to build out an automation tool, I want to build it on the premise of the person behind the brand. Because I'm a believer in people do business with people, not brands. But companies believe people do business with brands, right? I believe CRMs are built out for the CMOs, not for the loan officer, because they want to control that data. which I understand because I was in that position. We wanted everything to be controlled in-house, but we know that this is a relationship game. Our customers work with us because they like us. They like our intel, our knowledge, right? What we serve them. That's why they work with us. And that's what we need to give back and sell to our leads, to our customers, to our people.
And I want to dig into. I want to kind of unpack a campaign, like what type of communication, the cadence of that communication. I want to unpack that just so that people can kind of see what kind of things you're thinking of. But I also want to frame this in the context of what you're doing when we're talking about contact or conversion automation. All we're really trying to do is get the consumer to raise their hand so that we can engage in a live conversation with them. It's not the technology is not qualifying them for you. It's getting them to respond to that automated text so that you can take over. Right. And that's it. It's getting them to respond to that ringless voicemail, respond to that email, respond to that text so that there's a human on the other side and you just pick it up like it was you from the get-go.
Yep,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
So let's kind of unpack what that looks like. What, with your experience, how did you build, let's say, and I also want to, I don't know if you have your screen handy or if this is even something you want to share, but one time you showed me the contact and conversion rates from a cold Facebook ad, and the conversion numbers on that were crazy to me, and so if you have the ability to share that, if that's something you can do or you don't mind sharing, that would be cool. But let's kind of start at what a campaign looks like. Again, let's call it a cold campaign. Let's call it you're running Facebook ads and you have a good offer. How are you building that follow-up? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll talk and bring this up at the same time. So, one thing that we look at, right, is first off, when we look at a campaign, we always say like you're heavy your first 3 to 5 days, right? Because people have their lives, and that's one thing that we forget, right? And we've seen this 1,000 times that a loan officer, especially if they don't have anything in place and they're just getting the email of the lead, they call it once and then that's it. Which is crazy to me that I've seen that so many times. But what we don't forget is the psychology behind the consumer. And people have lives. They're bringing their kids to a ballet class. They're at the bank. They're on the phone with their mom, their dad, their son, their uncle. Life is happening for these people, right? And so what we want to do is create a cadence that's not so aggressive where it quote unquote pisses them off, but a cadence that's welcoming and making sure that we're staying on top of what we're supposed to do, which is try to answer their questions and be a problem solver for them, but not being too aggressive, but having a good cadence of that. So for instance, let's take a look at a Facebook campaign. Lead comes in the door. The first thing if I was going to build this out, this is obviously what we preach at Bonzo. First thing that comes in the door, it's going to send them out a text message and we're going to introduce ourselves. Now, beyond that, I'm a strong believer as well in Giphy. Giphies have their own language. We communicate with GIF all day long, right? That's the way that if someone sends me a text message with a GIF on it that's relatable to the content that they're pushing out, that's contextual, I'm going to be, that's unique, right? So
Dustin and Ricardo and I have text threads that not a single word is typed.
Right,
it's just GIF after GIF after GIF, and they're hilarious.
Right? GIF is its own language. Emojis are their own language. Why aren't we using this in our outreach, right? And so the first thing that comes in, and again, something that's contextual and relatable. So for instance, one of our Facebook campaigns that work really well is a text message. Hey, it's Jason over at XYZ Mortgage Company. Just got your information off Facebook. Would you prefer a text or a call? And we do a Michael Scott GIF of him answering a phone, right? And so it's relatable because everybody knows The Office. You should see the response rates just from that one text message. It's not a novel text. No one's gonna, if they see that, they get overwhelmed. If you're writing out a novel text, they're getting way overwhelmed. They're not going to read that. They're going to put that aside, and that's we're done with that, right? Plus, the carriers will probably put that in the spam folder because it's got over 160 characters in it. It's going to be like, no way. So character space, right? The questions we're asking, too many exclamation points. That's a big spam no-no. So very conversational, very contextual, bring humor into it. We see immediately a really high response rates just from that one text. Now, right after that text message, then we're sending out the voicemail drip. Hey, it's Jason over at 123 Mortgage. I just sent you a text message. I wanted to just try to get you real quick on a phone call. Give me a call or text back, right? We want to open up the options of text or call. And then finally, a few minutes after that, specifically 3 minutes after that, we send an email. But in that email, we're sending a video. We want to show who we are, that we're a real human being on the other side of that line, a real person. So we want to show our face. We want to show our expressions. We want them to hear our voice. We want them to see, what we look like, that we're a real person, that we're, the fortune is in the relevancy, not the follow-up, right? And so we are a human-to-human connection, and that's what we're trying to present to you. So it's a 30-second introductory video. In the email, we're just reiterating back what we just did. Hey, 5 minutes ago, I sent you a text. I also sent you a call. I hope not overwhelming you, but I wanted to cover all my bases and shoot you over an email, and also introduce myself via video. Give me an email, text back, or call back when you can. We're excited to work with you, right? Just super simple.
Now, let me jump in real quick. I want to clarify a couple of things. So the voicemail drip is a ringless voicemail. Yeah. So it just drops it into their phone. Their phone doesn't ring. They just show that they have a voicemail. All of this sort of happens. And that video that you're talking about, 30 seconds sounds long. I'd love to know if you did any testing on that, but it's an evergreen video. Right. Yeah. It's literally just, hey, this is me. You can say, I just sent you a text and a voicemail, because the system already sent them a voice and a text mail. And the chances of them actually responding and getting back in that period of time is relatively little. But if they do, right, if they do respond to that text, that email doesn't go out. Is that correct?
That's correct. So all of our campaigns, they stop when a response is recorded, whether they call you back, text you back, or email you back. It will shut down the campaign, because, again, to your point, Scott, the whole objective is to get them to raise their hand. Campaign shuts down. Now we're driving a one-to-one conversation.
So the ringless voicemail is coming from a number that's tied to the system. So they're going to click on the voicemail, and it's just going to call back the number that the voicemail is left from.
Yeah, so we actually do a double tap because we do like to, and what I mean by
always double tap. I think that's
let me clarify that. Double tap we do leave a missed call on their phone. So on their phone, it will say a missed call. It's impossible to answer. It rings for a double tap to the phone tower, so it leaves a missed call.
Oh wow, you do.
Yeah. So we purposely do the missed call, and so they see the missed call. They see the voicemail. They've got an iPhone. Now you get both of them showing up right there. Missed call from, voicemail from. So it just encourages them to open up their voicemail and listen to it, right? And they have the missed call right there on the phone. It matches. Again, from the human element of it, it brings that more to the forefront of the table.
Man, that's actually brilliant. I've never heard of anybody doing that. That's so subtle, but it's so smart.
Yeah, it seems to work, because, again, if they got the text message, right? They opened up the text message, they see the number matches the missed call. They know who that is. They just hit the recall back, and they're calling you back. So again, just because a level of transparency and trying to get them to raise their hand.
Yep. And then any communication turns off all the rest, because I know that's a lot of people's concerns. I don't want to look stupid because they just called me back, and then they get a text that says, "Hey, why haven't you called me back?"
Yeah.
Right.
And
rest assured, most of you listening will look stupid for other reasons.
like if they try to show up to the podcast looking like Han Solo.
What? I don't know what you're talking about over here.
With Princess Leia earmuffs on.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's true. I do.
Oh,
earmuffs. That's hilarious. Where's your costume, Scott?
I'm impersonating a professional today.
Sorry.
Wearing a branded logo shirt. Find my way home. Branded polo shirt.
There it is.
Yes, this is true.
I knew him when. Okay, so and actually, Scott, that's a really good thing to bring up, because as Jason was talking about this, I was thinking to myself, well, what if somebody like texts me back and then I fire off this email and I look like a total idiot? So yeah, that's cool. That's cool how that system works.
Yeah, and let me dig into excuse me. So day one, we like to do a 3-day cadence. 3 events is what we call them. So as soon as lead hits the system, right? Now, again, let's say the lead comes in though at 2:00 in the morning, right? We have an overlay there. We want to be a human at the end of the day. So we're not going to start a campaign at 2:00 in the morning, texting and calling these individuals. So what we do is, whatever you're comfortable with. If some people like to work later in the day and start later, or vice versa, earlier and earlier, you create whatever part of the day, segment of the day that you want the communication to send. So if you want it to be 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., lead comes in at 7 p.m., it's not going to start until 9 a.m. the next day. However, what we built into our system are called buffer acknowledgement emails. So we like to acknowledge that we received the information. So what we do in the campaign level is our users build out an acknowledgement email. So if a lead comes in at 9 p.m. at night, hey, I just got your information. I will contact you first thing tomorrow, and the campaign will start. So they have the acknowledgement email going out. We don't want to leave a lead just completely dry. So we acknowledge, and some people go deeper in a deeper layer. They give a little bit more information about their company or who they are in this email, but we want to make sure that we acknowledge the lead no matter what. Nice. So let's say, go ahead. You going to say something?
No, I just said nice.
Oh, cool.
So again, these are the details that I haven't seen in previous campaigns. Like we've already touched on 2 or 3 really, really small, subtle details that I think make a huge difference in the response rates.
Yeah, it is those subtle, and that's what we try to focus on and really coach on our platform, because one thing, and I'll say this too, Scott, is that we're as a SaaS company, we're very human focused. And what I mean by that is that we have what they call happiness advisors on our team that will help our clients build out their campaigns and make sure that they're successful. Because at the end of the day, we don't want our users using it like another automation platform, because it's built around our system is built around the nuances that move the needle. And so, for instance, on day 2, right, let's say a lead still hasn't responded yet because, they were visiting Aunt Sally in the hospital and they couldn't get to any of that. So day 2 starts. Well, again, little nuances like starting the campaign at 9:37, right, instead of 9 a.m. because we know that a lot of automation companies will do right on top of the hour at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, like right there. That's when you get hit with all the junk stuff. So 9:37 a.m. I'm sending out the text, and in the text I'm saying, "Good morning, Dustin. It's Jason over at 123 Mortgage," right? So I'm acknowledging what time of day it is. So on day 2, we have a morning text and an afternoon text. "Good morning, Dustin. Just checking in. Let me know if you have time for a call." Late in the afternoon, "Hey, afternoon, Dustin. Real quick, I know I sent you a text earlier. Do you have time for a quick chat about that pre-approval? ? Right? The other thing too here is going back to that video. I'm a big believer in putting yourself out there in a video format. So we also incorporate into our platform MMS. So when you do send out a text message, you can actually send out an actual MMS video, right? Again, it's not going to be like a link to a video. It's going to be like you just texted somebody a video and how it shows up on your phone as a video. It's going to be delivered to the recipient like that. Now, we do make sure, we do that, again, looking at the nuances. We cap those videos at 20 seconds. One, because we don't feel like any video should be longer than 30 seconds when you're sending it via, automation or to get them to raise their hand. But we cap them at these MMS videos at 20 seconds to make sure they're delivered by the carriers. Carriers have different limitations on what they're going to allow, to be delivered to their customers. Mm-hmm. So it's a size thing. And so we make sure that, from a size perspective of that file, it's going to be delivered by every carrier. And that's something that we really want to pay attention to. We have good relationships with our carriers. We verify all of our businesses that come onto Bonzo to show the carriers that this is a verified business that's going to be using this number to communicate with your customers. So that's something that we take very seriously, is deliverability. and how it's getting delivered. So,
Yeah.
Real quick, have you, I know voice text is kind of a big deal. Have you considered that? Have you tested that at all?
it's funny you say that because that's right now it's in our staging environment. So voice text is huge, and people love those voice memos. They work really well. And
it's basically a ringless voicemail as an audio file through text. Yeah.
And so that's a great point. Yeah, we're actually testing that right now. So we use Twilio for all of our communication vehicle, and they have that's part of one of their new products that we're working with them on. So it'll be cool when we launch that.
So we're at day 2 and we're doing 2 texts.
Yep, 2 texts. We want to hit them in the morning and the afternoon. Day 3, we're doing a morning text. We're doing a morning email. We're doing an afternoon voicemail. Day 4, we're doing a voicemail and a text. And again, all of these we're saying different things, right? And we're in our communication, in our outreach, we're letting them know, like, hey, I'm not trying to annoy you. I'm just trying to follow up and do my due diligence to make sure that you have your questions answered. Is there anything like I can help you out with?
And also, it's not day 4, right? It's day 1, day 2, or is it day 1, day 2, and then like day 5? Or are you doing 1, 2, 3, 4?
So
at this point.
Yeah, it depends on the lead source. If it is something like a Facebook, we'll do day 1, day 2, day 4, day 5, right? So we'll give them a break. The other thing too is that you can turn off weekends and you can turn off specific days, right? So if it's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, but day 4 hits a Sunday, right? And you have Sunday turned off on the toggle of your cadence, day 4 would actually be Monday. So we do, again, we allow a lot of flexibility, I guess, for the users to say, you know what, I don't work on the weekends, right? So you can actually toggle off Saturday and Sunday, or let's say Tuesdays. You're like, I'm out. You can toggle off Tuesdays for your communication to send.
Well, and again, that's just a very human thing to do. You probably shouldn't be, or you're probably not following up on a Sunday,
right?
Or a Saturday night or something like that. So yeah, that's really cool.
So going back to those conversions on Facebook, I just pulled up these numbers from this is just a small campaign that we recently ran, but out of 50 leads, we had 33 responds, right? And out of those 33 responds, we had about 7 applications. And again, it's just about the cadence. And if you look at some of the, I can pull this up for you too.
So wait, so you said you had 55 leads that ultimately became 7 applications. So that's all.
It was 33 responses. 33 responses though, out of 50 leads. That's crazy high.
Yeah,
I mean that. Yeah.
Let's see if I can share my screen here, and
it should let you. There should be a little button down there that says share, and then I have it prompted on the back end to put it up here. All right, here we go. I'll add it to the stream.
You see it here?
Yep, we got you.
All right, so let's go into. I'll go into a Lead Pops Facebook campaign.
Yeah, and for those who are listening on the audio only version, this is a good time to remind you can watch these episodes over at YouTube. Look up Marketing Trench on YouTube, find this episode, because we are taking a look live right now in the dashboard of Bonzo, and you can see how all this stuff is architected visually. It's one thing to talk about how all this stuff works out, but when you lay eyes on it, I find it to be very, very compelling. So that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, and one thing too, I just want to point out, based on my previous experience, building out tech stacks for salespeople, for loan officers, and we can all relate to this, but, CRM are typically pretty clunky from a UX perspective. There's a lot going on. Us as loan officers, salespeople, we don't like a lot of stuff going on. We like to, know what we're doing, get in, get out, and then go do what we do best, and that's sell and build relationships. Yep. So, but we took a really, really hard look when we first built out Bonzo as having as clean UX as possible. And so we spent a lot of time working on our UX, making sure it's very clean and easy to navigate around. So this is you'll see here, we have responded in all. So there's 51 in here, 33 responded out of this campaign. And those who didn't respond are automatically moved to a 6-month nurture. So no, we're going to continue to nurture these guys. If they go through that initial campaign, they don't respond. That's one of those little nuances, Scott, that we're talking about, is that we want to continue to drive the conversation, but we know that us as loan officers, we're not going to go manually do that. So in your campaign settings, you can automatically move them to a nurture campaign if they don't respond from the initial, 5-day set.
And I just want to quantify this because I'm over here crunching these numbers. So you're getting this particular campaign on this small sample size of 50 leads. I've seen higher conversion numbers on a bigger sample size that you showed me on Facebook leads, but you're talking about a 66% contact engagement rate on a cold traffic Facebook lead. And of those that you contacted, you're getting an application on 21%. So 1 out of 5 people that you're contacting, those are really, really, those are pretty numbers. Oh, here we go. So you got some
gifts, right? Now, again, our system will tell you, right? Again, we like to provide as much transparency. I don't even know what this lead is. So this is a blind look at this, but
that's actually Dustin's favorite GIF. He sends that to me all the time. It's in his Rainbow Bright portfolio that he likes to use.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we test with different GIFs and different language, but this is an example of, right now we like to tell our users, if we can't detect, right? Like here's the voicemail drop, but it was unable to detect the voicemail. Maybe they didn't have that greeting set up properly, but we want to tell you that voicemail was not delivered. So this user will know, I can call this person, or even try to do another voicemail drop from the actual communication channel. All right. So here's the video, the text. You see the video there. We start, the person called back, text me, they connected, right? So
don't go too quickly over that, because that I love, scroll back up to your little, that's kind of your bomb, GIF, right?
Yep.
That is brilliant. Could you, so what we're looking at again, if you're listening to this, it's a quick, it's actually Jason just raising his hand and kind of wording hi. There's no voice there, right? Is that something that you're building in your system, or did you build that outside your system and upload it?
This is right in the system. So when you do a video in Bonzo, we put the 3-second GIF into the outreach, obviously purposely. And what we coach around is raise your hand and smile, right? We want to show them that we're welcoming, that we're a real human being, that we like to smile, that we're happy and nice. And so what we coach when we're doing those introductory videos, even though it's on a campaign level, right? We want purposely do the 3-second loop GIF, and we always coach raise your hand and smile, right? Because we want to show that super simple. It's very welcoming. They're going to click on the video and watch it.
Well, we talked about this last week with feed stories, Dustin. That's a thumb stopper right there.
Yep, 100%.
Right. So you're scrolling through that text, or you're scrolling through that email on your phone, and that's a thumb stopper. You see that, and you're just like, I wonder what that is. Right. Let's click it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And, again, it's those little nuances that we want to bring in to optimize that conversion as much as possible. And so you can see here, the person called, they asked to text, so again, it's the conversation starts, they raise their hand, and I'm driving the conversation. Now, again, I can do little things from the conversation view too. I can drop them voicemails. I can assign them to different team members. I can call them directly from here, right? I can do some cool stuff, even add the task, right? Task, which I'll talk about in a second. But tasks are huge, right? They're the reminders. We don't want to make them too overly complicated, but tasks are part of the human manual outreach. I like to say your automation runs parallel with you being human. So even on the campaign level, you have the ability to add tasks to campaigns. So let's say on day 5, it's an actual personalized video. Maybe you're doing high intent leads, right? Or it's a personal call out to, we have a lot of users who are doing, high intent leads. Maybe they're doing bank rate leads. Those leads are expensive. On the third event of the day 1, which we call our calls or texts, we call them events. So maybe the third event is a task to call that lead. They'll get notified of that task immediately when it's due. They can go to their task view and know what that event is, call them directly from the task view, and that'll keep the cadence rolling on the campaign level.
So if you've got an LOA, if you got a loan officer assistant, or you've got, in one of our coaching groups, Carl White's Freedom Club, we call them freedom callers. So if you have a freedom caller that they're supposed to be following up on your leads, and, we're talking about consumer direct, but this also works for referral partner
Yeah,
lists, right? And
absolutely.
I do actually want to touch on that, because you have a partnership with MMI, Mortgage Marketing Intelligence, where
Yes.
you're running these types of campaigns. You can create a list of real estate agents that you want to follow up on. You're kind of sending out this, you're sending out this automation, see if they're interested, and then you're pushing them off onto maybe your assistants to follow these things up. That, again, this is so well thought out, and it puts so many pieces together that we're always independent. My biggest challenge with vendors in our industry is, number one, they try to sell you solutions to problems you don't have. And then number two, they try to sell you one gear in a system of things that need to take place to accomplish what
Right.
they are proposing to solve. And you've really built this out kind of end to end, and you've really considered all of those different pieces and all of those different parts, all the way to the human contact and the task assignment. So this is really brilliant.
No, thank you guys. And it's, I think, you guys, we love our users to death, and that's why we've built it the way that we have, is because it's the feedback from our users that's really allowed Bonzo to solve a lot of the problems that loan officers face today, and really optimize their time, but still drive that meaningful engagement. And you mentioned the realtor piece too, right? That's a big piece of the Bonzo business and the Bonzo product is having a path to build relationships with referral partners. Again, we have campaign templates built around that, but our happiness advisors are there to optimize that and make sure it's in your voice, because no one likes to be, part of an automate. Let's just be real. Like, no one likes to be part of an automation drip, right? They don't want to be part of that. But when we run parallel with that, with who we are as individuals, because at the end of the day, like I said, we're here as people, and people do business with people, especially in the B2B space, when we're building relationships with realtors. We want automation to run parallel with us. And so we have campaign templates that are built to run parallel, to start the conversation, to introduce yourself. When the realtor raises their hand, we're driving the one-to-one, we're setting the coffee and Zoom meetings, right? But we're there when they raise their hand. We're ready for them to, or for us to, win over that conversation.
So, we don't pitch products on this podcast. We call it the marketing trench, because these are things that we use in our own business. We're in there digging this, but I really want to kind of unpack this stuff, because listen, you can listen to this podcast, and I think we've given you enough information, and we're going to continue to give you enough that you could go out and try to build this on your own. I think you'd be insane to do it, but we're not holding anything back here. We're not teasing you into signing up for Bonzo. I mean, he's given you the real skinny on what works with people that are running this data all the time and doing this over and over again. But there's a couple things that I want to unpack that I think you got right, that anybody that's listening here, there's a couple of things. If you're going to build this yourself, you need to consider all of these things that we're talking about, because you do this for a living. You created a product around it, but you do it because it works, not because they're shiny objects that are going to trick people into working. You do it because it works. The other kind of all right, I lost my train of thought on that one. But so there's a couple of pieces of this that I like. So I don't want to dismiss, oh, that's where I was going with this. So you have campaigns that are built out, right? So you have some done for you stuff. But like you said, you have these happiness advisors, which Tony Shea would be proud, bless his soul. It's a Zappos reference,
Yep.
right? But it's you can go in there. So you have these advisors that'll work with you. And so you're kind of saying, listen, here's the voicemail. This is what the voicemail should sound like.
Mhm.
Here's what the video should look like. Here's what you should be saying, and here's how to do it. So you have the ability to customize some of these messages. And there are going to be certain steps that you have to do, right? You have to do the ringless voicemail. You have to do the video, the evergreen third communication on the first day email. But then you have the ability as a customer, you have the ability to create your own, your own cadence and your own communications. And I shared with you the other day. Ricardo and I created we created a what was that? What was the email? It was the last email. Dang it, I forget what we call it now.
The one that we built up for you. Is that what the one you're talking about for
yeah, kind of the I get it, the I get it one.
Yeah.
It's basically the last last text. It's the last text that just says, listen, I'll take your I'll take your not getting back with me as that you're not interested, but maybe you're just not ready.
That's
and a lot of my customers end up I don't end up helping them for 3, 6, 9 months later. So we're gonna keep reaching out to you for the next 6, 12 months, and we're gonna let you know. So it's kind of like we don't just cut them off. It's sort of that, listen, I get it. Life happens. You might not be ready right now. I'm just going to give you a heads up. We're going to touch base with you once a month or once every 3 weeks for the next 6 months. So those kinds of things, that kind of input, is fantastic. And if somebody submits input to you guys that you guys really like, your best practices, you're going to share network wide, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the best thing is like, there's no secrets, right? We want to share across what works the best because we want our customers to be happy. And at the end of the day, we know that, and again, I say this because the happiness advisors are there because we know that loan officers don't, it doesn't matter if you're in the sales space, you don't want to be a tech builder, right? You want to get in there and have it done for you. People want a done for you product. We know that. And so we all have this idea, loan officers, we all have this idea of like, I know what I need. I know what I want. I don't have time to build it. And so what we try to solve for from the happiness advisor perspective, and again, this might be too much information, but our investors get mad at us for having too much emphasis on making sure that our customers are happy because they think that, a SaaS company should be completely SaaS, but we believe, my partner and I believe that, running parallel with our customers to make sure that they're successful and having a human do that with them is what is going to move the needle for the success of our customers. And so, and we all need it. We don't have time. We don't have time to try to figure it out ourselves.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I would challenge people to completely eliminate done for you from your vocabulary. If somebody is saying that they're going to do it for you, they're taking advantage of the fact that you're not serious about getting results.
Yeah.
And if a company says we're going to do it with you, a done with you, even if it's a 1 hour call when you're setting it up, that there is the biggest indication of that company's commitment to your success. And that's really, really important. That's something that people should pay attention to. There's no such thing as automation. There is no easy button.
Yep.
But doing it with somebody that has the kind of experience you have is a shortcut. And there are shortcuts if you're working with the right people, but there are no magic buttons. Dustin, there's one more thing I wanted to kind of talk about, but Dustin, did you have a question?
Well, I had a question about what happens when the system hands the baton off to one of your clients. The client engages in a follow-up process, but the timing isn't quite right. And then, the client goes on to other interesting things, like as in your client goes on to other interesting things. Do you have a way for your clients to kind of hand the baton back to the system to let the system do follow-up?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that goes back to the templates. We have 6-month, 12-month nurture campaigns already built in. Again, we like to say, here's a template for you to work off of, but add your voice to it, right? So, here's the 12-month nurture campaign. Let's say they're not ready yet. Cool. Takes literally one click. I'm going to flip them to the 12-month nurture campaign. And that's going to just check in with them in a human way, right? It's not about, again, putting them on that boring email drip campaign that we all know. We're doing it to make ourselves feel good, but we know that customer's not going to open any of that stuff. We want to, again, drive this sense of caring into that 12-month nurture. So for instance, a good example would be 6 weeks later after they said, I'm not interested at this time. A text would be like, hey, Dustin, it's Jason over at 123 Mortgage. Just checking in. Everything good? Question mark. That's it, right? Or not even asking a question and sending a GIF of a hope your day is great. And then it's funny because these are the best, because we'll do those where it's not even a question on a nurture campaign. We'll just send a GIF of a gorilla waving like have a great day. And now we start this this GIF conversation back and forth with these clients. But what are we doing? We're just having fun, but we're building the relationship with these guys. We're having fun. They're getting to know who we are. They're seeing that we have a personality. And that's what moves the needle in this kind of like modern approach to automation conversation.
But does it get weird when the system sends a gorilla GIF, somebody responds with another gorilla GIF, and you like your client's like, why am I getting a gorilla GIF from this guy? Is that how that works, or how does that work?
Well, no. So the user is now driving this, right? So at this point, the loan officer who's using our software, they're the ones driving the conversation back and forth, right? Mm-hmm. So if they're using the SaaS itself, they're the ones driving it. However, if they're using, and I should probably clarify here too, Scott and Dustin, that we have two products. We have the SaaS as itself, where loan officers can come in and fully use the product as itself, or there's also a product called the Conversationalist, where they use our team to help qualify those leads and then pass the baton over on their calendar.
Okay,
so if it's our team driving the conversation on behalf, then our client, let's say it's Dustin, the loan officer, they're not even getting notified of that. It's just our conversationalist moving the needle for them.
Yeah. You guys are doing the banter back and forth. Yeah. When you feel like, hey, this is the time to hand you over to Dustin. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. That was perfect segue. That was the thing I wanted to bring up, is that you've also thought one step ahead, and you'll actually do live follow-up. So if you're using the SaaS, all of those responses are coming back to the loan officer. But if you're using a conversationalist, all those responses are coming to the conversationalist, and they're getting it to the point where you're ultimately scheduling on their calendar. And this, I would love to get your feedback on this, because this is something that's really shocked me over the last year. The astounding number of these conversations that result in the consumer scheduling on your Calendly link, right? It's like that seems to be one of the single most effective outcomes from these conversations, because even if they're engaging, it doesn't mean it's a good time for them to talk.
Right.
And empowering the consumer to get onto your calendar, pick a time that's convenient for them, and then you can call them back. I think that's a little bit of a secret weapon, but I think that is the single most powerful outcome of all of these, either automated or attended. The goal is to get them to schedule on your calendar.
Yes, 100%. I mean, that's it. We want to get that schedule in place. We want to show up on their calendar. We want to see for them to get that invite in their inbox, right?
Get those reminders, your calls coming up.
Yep. And you got the follow up for it. That's our goal. And that seems to be, when it comes down to the modern approach, right, of opening up the dialogue and giving the freedom back to the customer of when they are best available. That is a phenomenal approach. And we're seeing more and more of it today, right? Because people's lives are busy. We're all busy. Yeah. And so give them the option to choose.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
No, this has been great. I feel like we've really, pulled the curtain back on how this stuff works. Jason, is there anything that we didn't ask you that we should have, that you think people should know about this type of product or this type of process?
I think just the last thing too, and again, going back to understanding how we communicate, and if on the conversational side of Bonzo, we're really sensitive to that. So when our employees are communicating with our clients, leads or customers, we want to make sure that they're trained to have those conversations. It's important to us because if we have somebody who doesn't understand the language of mortgage, then it's hard to drive a connection. So what we do, Scott, is we actually put all of our conversationalists through what's called Bonzo University. And so Bonzo University actually gets them licensed to be loan officers as they're working your leads. They all have chosen to have this career path to be loan officers. So we pay them to get licensed as a loan officer, work your leads, understand how to communicate. Because at the end of the day, it's going to better serve you, right? Knowing that you have someone on the back end that's getting licensed to have a career in mortgages. But it also brings clarity in the conversation with the client, with your client, to make sure that the right conversation is happening with the right person. So I just wanted to add that it's super, we're sensitive to that. We know that, and we want to just, I think that adding that extra layer is going to increase those conversions. And what I would say to anybody who is using, an outside source, call center or a rep internally, it has done wonders to train our people to get them to understand the industry and what that does on a confidence level to convert those leads. So if you are using somebody internally to convert your leads, like invest some time to get them to know mortgage language, mortgage lingo, right? Just the nuances of our industry, because it does change so much of that conversion of just having that internal confidence to have those conversations.
Well, and
oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'll be honest, that's a big part of the reason why you and I started talking. The very fact that you do that just really just shows the character of the founders and of the company. And this is what I was talking about when I was talking about your whys. Because quite frankly, your conversationalists, their experience and their contact ratios and their reports from their time in Bonzo U is the resume to go out and become loan officers in the industry and contribute to helping consumers get into homes, build long-term wealth, and create communities by creating home ownership. So I just like all of those things together. Just it says volumes about how much effort you put into thinking all of this stuff out.
Well, and the contrast, right? I mean, Scott, your riff regularly is the guy who's calling you from one of the big box lenders that you click and get an instant mortgage. That guy probably worked at Domino's last night, right? Like they go and, they go fill their call center with people that, have no industry experience. And they're basically just picking up the phone and they're calling you and saying, hey, do you check my boxes? Right. I mean, they don't say it that explicitly, but that's what they're doing. They're looking to check boxes and move on. And they get all these metrics, and none of the metrics are, what I hear from Jason, which is his heart of, we're trying to build a relationship. We're trying to be real humans to real humans. We're trying to really engage people on a human level. And, that's really the difference maker. And, again, Scott, one of the things that I've always admired about you too, is that you really have a vision for this industry where everything in a world that, everything's becoming more and more automated. You're like, hey, we got to figure out how to actually be neighborly, how to actually have these real meaningful conversations with people. And that's the differentiator. I agree with you. And it seems like, Jason, you agree as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, if you want to learn more about Bonzo, you've been listening, you're like, all right, I'm sold. These guys are awesome. You can go check them out at getbonzo.com. Getbonzo.com. You can learn more about their story, check out their products or services, actually see some testimonials. If I recall correctly, I believe I saw some testimonials on their website when I checked it out.
Absolutely.
So really good stuff over there. Getbonzo.com is where you can go find out more about that. And if you want to learn more about what Scott's doing, findmywayhome.com is where you can find Scott and some other products and services that he's beginning to offer to people on the mortgage side of the industry. Really, really cool stuff. If you missed last week's episode with Bob
Bob.
Richneris from Feed Stories, they talked a little bit about what they're doing. It's really great stuff. So if you're a lender, go check it out. After you go check out getbonzo.com, go check out findmywayhome.com. Our missing co-host, Ricardo, he's on a plane today. October was a busy month. He was traveling a lot this month, but he sends his love. He should be back coming in November here. You can check him out, ricardobueno.com. Sign up for his podcast, sign up for his Authority newsletter. Really, really great insights, surfacing products like Bonzo and many, many others. And then finally, you can check out my team and I over at lighthouseescrow.com. If you are listening to this on the audio-only version and you missed out on the really cool behind-the-scenes look at what Bonzo actually looks like, how it operates, what the dashboard is, check us out on YouTube, youtube.com. Look up Marketing Trench. Please subscribe. Please like this video. That helps us to increase our analytics, get our audience growing. And most importantly, we're trying to get that vanity URL of youtube.com/marketing trench. We need 100 subscribers. You can be someone to help us get us there. So please go like and subscribe over at YouTube. All right, Jason, it's been a pleasure. Until next time, this has been the Marketing Trench.